Jin Seo-woon was a 23-year-old ex-soldier with a simple plan: study hard, get his degree, and finally catch up on the life he'd missed during military service. Most of his free time went into Loyal Ground, a survival battle royale game where he'd risen into the top 10. But even then, he knew it was time to quit and focus on the future. But one morning, when he went to college as usual, everything changed. Suddenly, a purple glow appears behind him and completely envelopes his entire body. Before he can react, he disappears off the face of the planet, leaving only his bag behind. Our boy wakes up in a strange world surrounded by all types of people who speak a weird language. Looking around, the only question that comes to his mind is, where the hell is he? Just a few moments earlier, he got sucked into a dark space and wondered if it was a punishment for studying. He suddenly wakes up to the sound of people arguing and fighting around him. To him, it seems like they are all cosplayers since most of them appear to be from ancient times or novels. Just as he is wondering where he is, he hears a voice in his head announcing that 100 players have been detected and the system will now begin its installation. After the system is successfully installed, he can now understand what the other people are saying. Some of them appear to be in the same state of confusion as he, while others are fighting like they are sworn enemies. His eyes fall on an elven mage who asks the Demon King if he is the one who brought them to this place. The demon laughs and says that he wanted to ask him the same thing. However, it doesn't matter since everyone is fated to kneel in front of him. The mage gets furious hearing this and prepares his attack, promising to destroy the entire demon kingdom. He hits him with a powerful lightning strike, but to his surprise, the Demon King is still unharmed. Even the Demon King is confused that he is still alive after he took the direct hit of his magic spell. While the two of them continue to argue, our boy realizes that this is too realistic to be a dream. Suddenly, system announces the start of their game. According to the game settings, the difficulty has been set to easy, and their goal is to make it to the top 90. They will be playing on a map called King Kingdom's Capital, and will receive rewards if they make it to the top 10. The system also notifies them that they won't receive any damage while being in the waiting room. Seo-woon looks at the hologram in front of him and wonders if it's the game map. For new players, the system briefly explains the game, telling them that it will be played for 100 days with the map area becoming slightly smaller with each passing day. For all the Zoomers, it's basically Fortnite. The system goes on to explain that players will take damage if they are outside the limited zone, and the game will end with only one person standing. Once someone dies in the game or if it is completed, they will return to their original world. Moreover, those players who don't make it to the top 90 won't be allowed to participate in this game again. After explaining all the rules, the system informs them that they will be dropped at a location that they choose using the Urgaz gaze. Hearing all this, our boy wonders if he is really dreaming about Loyal Ground right now. He walks past all the other players, realizing that he might die. However, he also wants to survive and win the rewards. Just as he is thinking, someone calls him out and breaks his thoughts. The guy is carrying a huge sword and wants to know where he is from since he keeps looking around. Our boy stays silent with a smirk on his face, which makes the guy mad, and he asks him why he is laughing. Seo-woon shows him the middle finger while thinking to himself that he is laughing because he has been put in such a fun dream. Moreover, with his knowledge of Loyal Ground, he can defeat idiots like him without breaking a sweat. The game finally begins, and all the players fall from the sky. The MC notices that most of the players are trying to drop in crowded places with more items, but he decides to play it safe and drop on the outskirts of the map. After looking around for a bit, he finally finds a decent spot to land. Soon after landing, he starts to feel some motion sickness and hears a sound nearby. He starts sweating and wonders if he failed to notice someone else landing with him due to the motion sickness. No matter the case, he knows that the best course of action is to find a weapon so he can at least fight back. He rushes in and closes the door behind him, wondering if it's the sword guy he provoked earlier. Looking out the window, he realizes that it must have been the wind since the sound has almost stopped. This gives him an opportunity to search the house for any items. While walking around, he randomly stumbles upon a heavy crossbow and picks it up. Thanks to the game physics, he instantly learns how to use the crossbow after he equips it. He has also served in the military as a sergeant, so it's not really hard for him. To test his new weapon, he aims it at a wooden pillar nearby. As soon as he presses the trigger, the impact sends him back, and the bow completely shatters the entire pillar, hitting the one behind it. He realizes that it might be pretty useful if he learns to use it properly. Afterwards, he tried looking around for more weapons but came up empty-handed. He decided to move somewhere else. The map is still big, so if he doesn't encounter any enemies early on, he can safely farm for more items. His search leads him to another abandoned house where he finds a healing scroll. The system notifies him that he can heal his wounds by ripping the scroll. He thinks to himself that he needs more recovery items and a bag to carry everything. Suddenly, notices a book shining on the bookshelf behind him. It turns out to be the Black Star Chi Palm's martial arts book, which allows players to project hidden weapons through their fingers. The system asks him if he wants to learn the book, and he confirms it, wondering if it will start a tutorial. To his surprise, all the information from the book flows into his mind in seconds. He stares at his hands for a bit and then picks up a fork to test the new skill. As he throws it, the fork pierces the wall in front of him almost like a knife. Our boy lets out a confident smile as he realizes that he has learned a martial arts technique. While taking the fork out of the wall, he thinks to himself that there must be magic books as well since there are martial arts books. In any case, he is confident that this game, Cloyd Survival, and Loyal Ground are the same. After looking everywhere for the item, he decides that it's time to move somewhere else. The day turns to night as he searches for a new place. Finally, he comes across a house with one of its lights still on. He gets a bit scared as he realizes that it's either a rare hidden item or another place. Slowly, he starts moving inside while making as little noise as possible. Our boy still doesn't know if the person inside is good at the game or not. While hiding by the stairs, he tries to get a sense of their location, but he can't hear anything. This makes him wonder if the player is hiding on the second floor, and he starts planning to ambush them using his weapon and the Black Star Cheap Palms. This way, even if they are good at the game, they might stand a chance. He slowly moves up with his crossbow pointed forward, but to his surprise, he can only see a lantern with no players in sight. This can still be a trap, so he kicks open the doors to one of the rooms nearby but finds it empty. Finally realizing that he had made a fool of himself, he dropped to the ground. However, he is also a bit relieved that he didn't find any players inside. While searching for items, he finds a glowing ring that increases a player's strength by 20 when worn. As soon as he puts on the ring, his body starts to feel much stronger, and the crossbow on his back is also much lighter now. Realizing that he can increase his strength, he guesses there must be other stats as well. So he opens up his stat window and finds out that his own stats are quite pathetic. He notices that he has the martial arts class and wonders if it's because of the book that he learned. Still, this is a huge improvement compared to what he had when he landed. He decides to search through the rest of the property and finds a subspace ring. This is exactly what he needs, as it allows him to store his items in a subspace. All he has to do is touch the ring and think of the word subspace. He can also touch it with his other hand while thinking of the item to take it out. Feels a bit strange to use, but it's still useful as he doesn't have to carry a bag around. After storing all his items in the subspace, he starts thinking about the remaining players. Going into the interface, he looks at the remaining survivors only to find out that there are still 99 players left. Siwon was planning on farming till there were only 90 people left, but he is quite happy with his items and abilities, so he decides to move on for now. Even though it seems logical to wait for sunlight, he decides to move at night since there will be fewer people outside. He can simply go undetected and farm in one more location before morning. While moving through the forest, he realizes that he doesn't feel tired. However, he still experiences hunger and thirst, which makes him wonder if there is food in the city. According to the map he saw, the food should be just outside the forest, but he can't locate the houses. While he is thinking, he suddenly hears a growling noise from behind, and without even looking back to see what it is, he runs forward to find a place to hide. As he peeks back, a huge werewolf appears right in front of him. The werewolf tries slashing him with his claws, but he is quick enough to dodge and runs away. Turns out that he not only has to look out for other players, but monsters as well. He frantically runs towards the nearest shelter as he doesn't want to die to some lame monsters while being a pro at this game in real life. His heart beats at an incredible rate as he hides inside the house, wondering what he should do next. The werewolves follow his scent to the house, and he knows that they will find him eventually. Therefore, he decides to be the first to attack and shoots one of them directly in the head with an arrow. The headshot instantly kills one of them, but the other suddenly charges at the house. The werewolf slashes the door and cuts his face slightly. With nowhere left to run, he moves back a bit and shoots at the monster. However, this one has quick reflexes, so he uses his hands to shield himself from the arrow and jumps at him with rage. With the massive monster just inches away from him, he wonders if this is the end. Suddenly, something clicks in him, and he takes out a dagger from his subspace, quickly throwing it at the werewolf using his martial arts technique. The impact is so strong that it creates a literal hole in the body of the werewolf. Even with the monster dead, he still couldn't control his nerves as he really thought that he was going to die. He sits down while being thankful that he stashed the dagger in his subspace. Otherwise, he would have died to some random monsters in the game. A glowing bag on the ground distracts him from his thoughts, and he wonders if this is loot from the monsters. Turns out it's water and jerky, which makes him realize that he can hunt monsters for food. While eating, he starts walking around the house searching for anything useful when he comes across a piece of armor that looks similar to a bulletproof vest from Loyal Ground. The armor immediately adjusts to his own size while increasing his resistance against fire and wind magic. This makes his build a lot more dynamic, and he starts searching for something else. Just as he thinks he won't find anything, he accidentally kicks a hidden piece of cloth. It turns out to be a night cloak that grants invisibility during the night if a person stays still. This is a great item for him as it means that he can go around at night without being seen. He was a bit confused about this house, but it turned out to be a good farming spot. As he moves out, he realizes that he hasn't seen a single player yet, which might have to do with his landing spot. His wish is granted as soon as he hears someone running in the distance. The guy seems to be badly injured and talks about not having the time to use an item. Our boy is still hiding in the trees, following his every move. He thinks about taking him out, but for some reason, his hands start shaking since he is about to kill another person. While he is arguing with his own morality, a mage appears from behind and finishes the guy off using his flame spell. Siwon is lost for words as he witnesses a man getting burned alive in front of him. All that is left of the man is a chest containing his loot, which makes our boy feel a bit better as he remembers that this is just a game. The mage walks right in front of him, talking about how the guy wanted to steal his items. The MC is shocked as he completely ignores him and walks past. While the mage is busy taking all the loot, our boy realizes that the person he just killed was someone like him. He might even be the next guy who gets killed by the mage. The moment he hesitates, someone will kill him and take his loot. With all these thoughts in mind, Siwon shoots an arrow at the mage. Unfortunately, the mage has a shield surrounding him, so the arrow doesn't pass through. He is a bit scared of attracting another player and starts blaming the guy for being too loud. Without warning, the MC shoots another arrow that damages the shield further. The mage knows that if it continues, he might lose the shield and die. He randomly uses his flame spell to try to scare him off, but it doesn't work. The next arrow pierces through the shield, destroying it completely. With this, the mage starts panicking and frantically tries to cast another spell. However, before he can finish casting it, a dagger flies into his head, killing him on the spot. Siwon finally shows his face, realizing that he has won. He knows that he has to get out of here as soon as possible since more players might come here following the flames. As he takes away both of their items, he notices a gold necklace and a circular stone. The stone allows a player to use magic spells, and it reminds him of the guy who was regretting not having time to use an item, thinking that he might be talking about this stone. He smiles and says that he will put it to good use in his name. However, he can't just test all the items here, so he decides to go somewhere safe. After finding a hiding spot, he picks up the stone, and the system notifies him that he won't be able to move for 3 hours after he uses the item. Our boy spends the entire time motionless in pain, but the result of his hard work is totally worth it. He now has the mage class mentioned in front of his martial arts class. This means that he can also use magic. Thinking about the 2 players who died yesterday, he decides to check the remaining survivor. What he sees takes him by surprise as the survivor count has dropped by nearly 50 and there are only 45 players left. Apparently, a player named Nam Sagwang is owning the entire lobby. My man is smuffing an ancient fortnight. The scene changes to another location 3 hours ago, where we see the kid Sagwang bullying another player. The guy begs him not to kill him as he wants to make it to the top 90, but our boy isn't here to leave some easy kills. He aura farms a bit by ignoring his items completely and wonders if the players in the lobby recognize his name by now. It's now day 3 of the survival game, and Siwon wakes up to see that the survivor count has dropped to 45 players. The entire scoreboard is filled with Sagwang's name, so our boy knows who he needs to avoid. He suddenly realizes that he might be able to make it to the top 10 if players continue to die like this. Before the game started, the system announced that the top 10 rankers would get a reward, and he started wondering what it might be. While he is busy thinking, he realizes that there is a killer running around, so he should quickly finish his search and keep moving. Since he used the magic circle earlier, he can now feel a power coming from within him, and he guesses that it's probably mana. To test his new ability, he takes out the magic book he found yesterday and uses it to learn the spell directly in his head. Afterwards, he chants the spell and creates 4 magic balls in the air. This feels a bit underwhelming, and he mindlessly throws the balls away thinking they are useless. However, when the balls make contact with the wall, they cause a huge explosion that destroys it. This makes him realize that he can use this spell after all. Suddenly, his body starts to feel tired because he is out of mana. With the passage of time, the map becomes smaller and smaller, but he still stays at the edges to avoid encountering any players. Moreover, half of them have already died, so his chances of running into one of them are already pretty low. Still, he knows that he needs to hurry up and finish farming before the map becomes even smaller. While he walks to his next destination, an old man stalks him from a tree and finds his movements interesting. A few hours later, Seowon finally reaches his next farming spot and notices a bunch of looted chests. Realizing that someone is nearby, he suddenly turns around and blasts the area with his wind ball spell. An explosion destroys the entrance to the building, but it turns out to be a false alarm since nobody seems to be there. Just then, he notices a blood trail on the wall inside, realizing that a player might be injured. However, since they have survived till now, he guesses that it's probably someone strong. With these thoughts in mind, he decides not to risk it and leaves the place. His hunch turns out to be correct, as there is actually an injured player hiding inside. The player watches him leave and comes out thinking that he could have killed him if he wasn't injured. Before he can loot any of the chests outside, an arrow pierces his head and turns him into one of those chests. Our boy just played a little trick called baiting an opponent and secured another kill. Just as he thinks about leaving, the old man appears behind him and says that he looks pretty skilled. This scares the crap out of him, but the old guy assures him that there is nothing to worry about since he is here just to ask a few questions. Seowon is still shaken and asks him who he is, but instead of giving him an answer, the old man asks him if he would know who he is even if he told him, since they are all from different lives. His way of speaking calms down our boy a bit, and he seems to be different from everyone else he has come across so far. The old guy asks him if he has participated in this game before and reveals that he has been stalking him for a while, noticing that he adapted to the game pretty fast. The MC wonders how he couldn't notice the old man following him and mentions that this is his first time in this game, but he has played a game similar to this in his own world. The old guy is curious about the game, but it's getting dark, so they probably need to move somewhere safe. He asks him if the moon in his world is also as big as the moon in this game. Seowon looks up and realizes that he never noticed the moon before. It is actually a lot bigger than the moon back home, and the same is true for the old man. He brings the conversation back to the game and asks him if he can explain it more. Our boy tells him that they might get ambushed if they continue talking here, and the old man agrees, suggesting that they move somewhere else. However, the MC is still a bit worried about getting killed by him, so he asks for some assurance. The old guy simply tells him that he already knows he won't kill him and suddenly grabs him while moving at an incredible speed. The two of them cross the entire forest in an instant, stopping on top of a tree. It is at this place that the MC starts explaining everything about the game. The old guy seems intrigued by his words and says that his world looks like a magical place. Seowon struggles to balance himself and mentions that it's a place of a highly advanced civilization. The old man says that it must be the reason he was able to adapt so quickly to this game as well. He reveals that he has been with him from the moment he dropped. Initially, he planned to enjoy the fresh air on the high mountains for the entire duration of the game, but he got interested in his way of playing this game. The old man assures him that he only decided to talk to him because he was curious about why they were brought here, and he means no harm. Seowon reveals that he also has no idea why they were brought here, since the game back in his world is only played for fun and no one dies for real. In this case, he has no idea what the motives of those supernatural beings are who abducted them from their worlds. After a pause, he says that he is confident that they might give them some reward at the end. When the old man asks him what he is talking about, he mentions that players don't die for real when they are killed in the game. This probably means that they are sent back to their original worlds with a rank based on their performance in the game. The rewards they receive might be the items they collected during the game. Hearing this, the old guy asks him if he is talking about the things on his body. Seowon further states that they may even be able to bring back the martial arts techniques they learn here. It might not be much for the old man, but for others who are struggling, it can be life-changing. The old man asks him why he thinks that his life is without struggles. To this, the MC tells him that he looks like a martial arts master with thousands of followers back in his world. So compared to him, he has nothing in his original life. This makes him laugh, and he asks him why he keeps hovering his fingers in the air. The night turns to day as our MC continues teaching the old man about all the rules and tricks of the game. He drops him somewhere safe and apologizes for taking up too much of his time. Before he leaves, he asks him if he wants something in return for all that he did for him. Without wasting a second, Siwon asks him if he can learn his martial arts techniques. The old guy looks at him with a serious expression and reveals that it isn't impossible. However, he should be prepared for the worst, and by worst, he means death. According to him, in order to succeed outside the traditional means, one must pay a hefty price. After he ends his dramatic speech, Siwon reminds him that no one actually dies in this game. This brings the old guy back to reality, and he says that it might be possible for him to use that method. Our boy impatiently asks him if it's possible for him to get stronger, and he says that it's worth a try. The first thing he needs to do is to check how much energy he has. To do that, the old guy puts his palm on his head and immediately gets terrified as he realizes that his inner energy is even less than that of his house dog. In our boy's defense, he lives in a world without magic or martial arts, so it's understandable. In any case, the old man asks him to sit in the lotus position and begins the process. He warns him that he will feel pain close to death and won't be able to move. All he can do is endure the pain, as he will die if he fails to do that. As he starts the energy transfer, Siwon starts to feel everything surrounding him. He can even hear his own heartbeat, and each of his breaths feels like lava entering his lungs. The pain is so intense that he starts to wonder if he is really going to die. He finally opens his eyes after enduring excruciating pain and feels his entire body trembling. The old man lifts his hand slowly and tells him that it's over. He mentions that his body isn't too bad since he actually endured the pain without dying. Now that he has fixed the flow of his chi, his body will be different from before. Siwon has no idea what that means, so he asks him what he needs to do next. The guy reminds him that he wanted to be stronger fast and reveals that he has pushed his soul a bit away and created an inspirational gate in that space. Normally, people can only absorb chi using breathing techniques. However, thanks to the empty space in his soul, he can absorb energy in other ways too. People consist of three things: body, mind, and soul. All of these are held together by life chi. When a person dies, their life chi doesn't simply vanish, but disperses and gets absorbed by the nature around them, thus continuing the cycle of life. However, there are those who consider this cycle a waste and prefer killing others to absorb their chi. This doesn't always work, as the chi stays in an unstable state, and in the end, they either lose their martial arts or die. The mind technique he just etched into his body will allow him to absorb the life chi of people who have died to increase his inner energy. Siwon gets worried hearing this and asks him if he is also going to die. The old man says that he is a bit different since he actually tweaked his soul to create a gate for chi to enter. Moreover, he doesn't really have any inner energy, so his body is like a blank sheet and he can absorb the life chi harmoniously. Finally, since they are in a game, he can freely use a forbidden technique like this since nobody actually dies in this game. They simply move back to their original world. In order to survive, he needs to eliminate the other players and absorb their energy. If he does that, he will reach a phenomenal level at the end of the 100 days. After dropping his insane wisdom and techniques, the old man says farewell and decides to leave. Siwon quickly stops him and asks for his name. The old man gives him a wise look and reveals that his name is Jang Dokhen, but everyone calls him the Deep Valley Standing Kindly. Moreover, the technique he just taught him is called the White Martial Physique Arts. Before leaving, he advises him to focus on his breathing, as it will help accumulate inner energy and make him stronger. The two finally say goodbye, and he leaves faster than the wind. Siwon starts to think that if he can master this technique, he might also be able to move like the old man, but for now, he needs to move to the edge of the map. The old man took him to the center of the map in an instant, but now that he is walking back, he realizes the true scale of this map. It turns to night as he finally reaches some houses. One of them has a lantern, which makes him suspicious that someone is inside. He quickly makes his way inside while keeping his crossbow ready. However, it turns out to be nothing, so he starts farming. Unfortunately, for him, that doesn't go well either, and all he finds are useless items. In any case, he decides to rest for a bit as he feels too tired. He wakes up from his sleep the next morning to the sound of someone moving around. Without wasting any time or making a sound, he grabs his crossbow and camps in front of the door. As soon as the man opens it, he fires an arrow aimed straight at his head. The other player seems to be a skilled martial artist, so he quickly slices the arrow in half. At the same time, Sewon uses his Black Star cheap palm to throw multiple daggers at him, which successfully break through his defense. This is enough to break his composure, and he gets thrown down to the ground. Our boy kicks the sword out of his hand and prepares to impale the arrow into his head. The man knows that it's over, so he starts begging for his life and offers him all his items. However, he gets killed the next second, and Sewon mentions that he also needs to survive. Surprisingly, he can see a green glow around the chest dropped by the player. And by the looks of it, the glow seems to represent his life chi. The MC raises his hand and starts absorbing all the energy, which immediately makes him feel much stronger. Even though he has just absorbed one person's life chi, his body feels much lighter and stronger. He opens his window to check his stats and notices a new category showcasing his inner energy. Currently, he is at 20 points. All this makes him excited, but he knows that he can't just rely on getting kills in his inner energy. He will eventually need other ways to get stronger too. During the time he was busy collecting chi, the player count dropped to 24, and it's only the 5th day of the game. Another name suddenly comes up on the kill feed, and it's none other than Nam Sagwang. The guy is a complete monster, and he continues obliterating every other player in the game. With blood on his face, he opens the kill feed and notices Sewon's name. This makes him a bit annoyed, as he also saw his name a bit earlier. Meanwhile, our boy is thinking that he needs to avoid Nam Sagwang at all costs. With his current strength, he can barely fight normal players, and he has a lot more to do before he can face that beast. He starts searching for items in the chest, but the only good thing he finds is a troll's potion. Afterwards, he decides to hide and survive until the number of players drops further. A week later, while he is farming for food, he thinks about how lucky he was in the early game to not encounter any players. The only thing available to eat is the jerky, and he has started to get sick of it. With only 20 players remaining, he stays at the edge of the map. Moving his hand out of the area for even a second hurts like hell, which makes him realize that he won't be able to move if he gets left behind. For the entire week, the kill log only showed Nam Sagwang's name as he killed more players. Suddenly, our boy notices smoke in the distance and wonders if there is a fight going on. Meanwhile, at the site of the explosion, Nam Sagwang is breathing heavily. He is surrounded by multiple players who have all joined forces to kill him. Instead of getting scared, he laughs and says that he is thankful to them for making his job easier since he doesn't need to hunt them now. His expression suddenly turned terrifying as he asked them if they were also ready to get killed just like they were going to do to him. Our boy jumps into the air and grabs his first target by the face, crushing his skull with sheer force. At the same time, he punches another guy's head clean off, killing 2 players in just 1 second. The other players start to get worried as they witness his strength, but to him, it's all just a game. He continues counting his kills as he literally destroys them while fighting alone. It doesn't even seem like a fight but a one-sided massacre. After it's over, the kill feed is flooded with his name along with the players he just killed. Sewon starts shaking as he realizes that the guy just killed 9 players at once. Meanwhile, Sagwang is disgusted by the blood on his face and leaves to find a place to wash it off. At night, the elven mage from the start of the game walks to the scene and finds the staff, realizing that it belongs to a girl he knows. In his heart, he makes a promise to avenge her. At the same time, our MC is hiding in the bushes, waiting for more players to be eliminated since he is almost in the top 10. However, he knows that it won't be so easy without getting some good items. With this in mind, he comes across a huge mansion at the edge of the zone. As soon as he enters, he is mesmerized by the size and design of the whole building. While searching, he finds a guard's armor, but his stats aren't high enough to use it, so it's useless to him. Moving on, he finds an elixir that increases internal energy and has a 3-hour use time. This makes him a bit shocked as he realizes that he can increase internal energy without having to absorb life QI. Continuing his search, he finds a martial arts book and a hidden cellar. However, before he can head inside, he gets caught in a powerful explosion and the entire place is destroyed. Regaining his composure, he notices the mage standing in front of him, but he is not alone this time. He originally aimed the explosion at Nam Sagwang, but my man is still standing. He tells the mage to stop talking and come at him instead. The mage happily takes on the challenge, and the two prepare to fight. Meanwhile, our MC watches all this while hiding in the bushes. He can't believe that the person who wiped out most of the players from this game is just a kid. As the two titans come face to face, the mage strikes first and uses his escrow-style lightning attack. However, the kid is just too fast and dodges it easily. This makes the mage a bit annoyed, and he screams at him to face him head-on, just like he did with the girl before. Sagwang starts to recognize the mage's incredible strength and gets a bit serious. He gets hit by multiple lightning strikes at once, but he still manages to dodge them all and jumps towards the mage to finish him off. However, the mage is just too strong and swings his staff to rip his entire body in half. To his surprise, that body turns out to be an illusion, and the real Sagwang is still somewhere on the ground. Our boy, Siwon, is still watching this incredible fight, and he wonders if it's raining because of the mage's spells. Meanwhile, the mage grows furious as he realizes that the kid is gone, and he can't detect his presence anymore. He screams and swears to find him at all costs. Some distance away from the scene, Sagwang is running away with his entire body badly injured. He smiles, thinking to himself that the mage must have defeated him this time, but he won't let him get away again. For now, he has to play safe and recover. Back at the mansion, the mage finally leaves after sensing no trace of the kid, and our boy survives thanks to his cloak of hiding. He knows that they won't come here again, so he gets out of hiding and finds his lamp. Despite the intense fight, the entrance to the basement is still fine, so he decides to go in and search for items. After walking down the stairs, he realizes that it's just a food cellar with no items in sight. However, he is a bit hungry, so he eats until his stomach is full. An hour later, he wonders if he should consume the elixir now since he probably has the time. There is also that martial arts manual that he had. The description of the technique says that a man with a lifetime of martial arts combat experience developed it after putting his heart and soul into it. However, he never won a single match using this technique and died a miserable life while having no disciples. This puts our boy in a bit of doubt, but he still decides to go with it since it's better than nothing. With all these thoughts in mind, he chooses to drink the elixir first, expecting the same excruciating pain he experienced before. However, his experience is a bit different this time, and he can feel his entire body getting filled with energy. Suddenly, his body starts getting hot, and he feels tired, making him unable to move. After finishing the process, he is pretty tired and goes to sleep, thinking how lucky he has been to not encounter any players and even survive the fight between an archmage and Nam Sagwang. He wakes up the next day and checks the player count to realize that the old man has killed himself. Since he knows the old guy, he guesses that he must have tried some absurd training methods since there are no risks involved in this game. The map starts to get even smaller, so he knows he has to move since he has made it so far into the game. He decides to continue using the same strategy that has kept him alive so far. It's perfect for someone like him who doesn't really have any skills. While moving through the forest, he suddenly gets blasted by a huge explosion and barely manages to dodge. The sheer explosive power is already enough to tell who caused the explosion. Our boy looks ahead to see the archmage standing in the distance. The mage looks annoyed as he thought he felt Sagwang's presence. He asks him if he can tell him his location. Otherwise, he will kill him on the spot. Meanwhile, Nam Sagwang, who has been hiding behind the mage all along, smiles as he hears this. The mage glares coldly at Siwon and demands to know where the kid is. He threatens that if he doesn't give him the location, there's no reason to let him live. From the mage's point of view, someone who doesn't have answers is just useless. Shocked and frustrated, the MC pushes back. He can't believe the mage is making such a demand the moment they meet. He insists he has no idea where the guy is hiding. Then Siwon's expression tightens as something has caught his eye. His eyes widen in alarm as Nam Sagwang suddenly appears above, descending in a flash of blinding energy. Still unaware of the incoming threat, the mage continues his one-sided conversation. He says he only asked because the MC looked like he was from the same region as the guy. If he isn't, then he can just die. Without warning, Nam Sagwang slams into the mage with a thunderous impact, crackling with electricity. The mage flinches, shocked, and realizes too late that the kid has been hiding nearby. With a confident grin, he says he's fully recovered and mocks the mage for being low on mana. Siwon watches in disbelief as the kid roars that he's ending this now and charges his punch with explosive energy. The punch lands hard, launching the mage backward with a shockwave of blue light. Though injured, the mage tries to stay calm and mutters that such a basic attack can't hurt him. But suddenly his face contorts in horror as pain shoots through him and blood bursts from his body. Nam Sagwang grins menacingly. He asks the mage if he has ever heard of enhanced energy. His glowing hand pulses with deadly energy. He explains that arm energy is a rare martial art from enhanced energy mastered only by a few. He didn't expect to use it in this world, but the mage is the first to see it. He should feel honored. The mage struggles to breathe, gasping for air. In a split second, Nam Sagwang drives his electrified fist straight through the mage's body. Blood erupts as the mage screams in agony. With the guy beaten badly, he asks him if he won't be casting any more of his annoying spells now. Sagwang casually remarks that someone like the mage could have made it into the top 5 if only they hadn't crossed paths. From a distance, Suwon watches the whole scene, stunned. He feels lucky that the kid arrived, but also knows this is his only chance to escape. While the two fight, he decides to flee. Just then, Nam Sagwang strikes again with another brutal punch and tells the mage to die already. A blast of energy shakes the ground. Blood sprays as the mage's body takes the hit. He's too weak to fight back. Nam Sagwang drives his electrified fist through his chest again. Siwon stares in shock. Watching the mighty archmage fall like this forces him to question everything. Then a dangerous thought creeps into his mind, and he wonders how powerful he might become if he can absorb the life energy from the mage. Nam Sagwang stands over the broken mage and mocks his past confidence. He calls his body nothing more than a half-dead corpse. Then he asks if the mage has any last words, only to laugh, reminding him he can't even speak anymore. The mage glares up in silence, his bloodied face twisted in pain. Suddenly, Nam Sagwang hears the mage's voice in his mind. Through telepathy, the mage reveals that Elizabeth, the person he killed, was his most cherished disciple. The kid pauses, confused by the voice in his head. The mage explains how Elizabeth had been thrown out of university just for being a girl. He regrets not protecting her, but Sagwang sneers, claiming that if she were a girl, he would have noticed unless she looked too much like a man. A dark grin spreads across the mage's face. With burning rage, he silently vows to shut Sagwang's filthy mouth for good. Hearing this, the kid's expression turns serious as he demands to know what the mage just said. At that same moment, Siwon sees something in the sky. To everyone's shock, the mage has cast a powerful spell, and a giant meteor is heading straight at them from above. Sagwang looks up in disbelief and shouts in anger, unable to understand how the mage is still casting spells. Through telepathy, the mage explains that this is his final spell that uses both mana and life force. The spell is called Armageddon. As the meteor crashes down, the mage quietly speaks to Elizabeth, saying he's ready to see her again. He disappears in a flash of red energy, leaving behind only a chest. The meteor hits with thunderous force, creating a huge shockwave that levels the area. From a distance, an elven archer watches in silence. He sees the destructive magic and knows exactly who cast it. Back on the ground, Suwon lies injured, blaming himself for not running sooner. He fumbles for a healing elixir and a scroll, using both as quickly as possible. The pain is still strong, but he refuses to die. He pulls out more healing scrolls using everything he has. After barely surviving, he stands among the torn-up earth and scattered scrolls. Breathing heavily, he says he can finally relax for now. But when he checks his system log, something feels wrong. It confirms that Nam Sagwang killed the mage, but there's no record of Sagwang's death. A cold shiver runs through him as he wonders if the kid is still alive. Just then, a faint voice calls out for help. He follows the sound through the forest only to find Sagwang barely alive, holding a healing scroll in his teeth. He begs Siwon to help him use it since he can't move his arms. The MC calmly confirms his identity, and the kid recognizes him. Our boy admits he always thought he would win. He was curious about what kind of items he must have had. Nam Sagwang promises that if Siwon helps him just once, he'll make him the winner. But as Siwon pulls out a glowing purple sword, it's clear he has something else in mind. He believes that if he absorbs Sagwang's power and items, he can win this game for sure. The kid panics and pleads. He warns that strong enemies are still out there, that he doesn't even have good items, but Suwon remains calm. He raises his sword, introduces himself as Jin Suwon, and prepares to strike. Suwon yells that even if he dies now, he'll never forget this betrayal. His eyes burn with hatred as he screams the MC's name just before the sword crashes down. Blood splashes violently as Seowon stabs him through the head, ending it without hesitation. Afterward, he catches his breath. Seeing the top player in the game die like a child leaves him feeling strangely guilty. But then something unexpected happens as he notices a blue energy surrounding him. The power flowing into him is immense, beyond anything he imagined. He grins in disbelief as he realizes that Sagwang was like a living elixir. The energy continues to surge through him, flooding his body. Elsewhere, other players check the kill log and notice that Nam Sagwang has died. The elven archer who had been watching the fight earlier looks down from a tree and mentions that the foxes will run rampant as the lion has died. Still glowing with inner energy, Seowon looks at his hands in amazement. He can feel the massive amount of internal energy flowing through him and thinks he could now take on anyone. His eyes move to Nam Sagwang's glowing loot box lying nearby. As he reaches for it, he wonders just how powerful he must have been even before the game began. He doubts someone that strong could have avoided farming altogether. He also hopes the box isn't empty since that would be disappointing. As he opens the lid, a bright green light bursts out. He gasps in shock to notice 5 powerful rings inside. 1 boosts agility, another increases strength, 1 raises stamina, and 2 enhance magic resistance. The rings float in the air around him as he stares, stunned. He puts them on and scoffs at Sagwang for pretending not to rely on gear while secretly farming rare items. Suddenly, the energy around him intensifies again. Feeling the power of the rings, he quickly opens the stats window and notices how much his stats have gone up. He smiles, clenches his fists, and confidently says that he can win now. As he looks through the rest of the loot, he finds martial arts books glowing with purple energy, but they all require internal cultivation techniques he hasn't learned, so he can't use them. As he walks through the forest, something makes him stop. He senses a presence. Suddenly, gets hit by a massive wave of fire similar to one of the archmage spells. After tanking the entire spell, our boy looks through the smoke to notice a low-level mage mocking him for not noticing him. He arrogantly claims that Seowon must have beaten Nam Sagwang by luck if a sneak attack was all it took. But our boy calmly stands up unharmed and asks him what he is trying to do. The mage is shocked, wondering how his spell had no effect on him. Seowon glances around, confused, saying he thought he saw something flash. His magic resistance is at 90, so these spells don't even scratch him anymore. He steps forward slowly, which makes the mage panic, and he warns him not to come closer, threatening a stronger spell. As flames swirl in his hands, the mage casts escrow-style flame, sweat dripping from his face. But Seowon stays calm, thinking the spell won't work anyway. A second fiery explosion blasts him. This one is stronger, but like before, it does nothing. The MC steps out of the flames, completely unharmed. He stares the guy directly in the eyes and hits him with a piercing fist. The punch hits the mage in the chest, sending shock waves through his body. Blood flies from his mouth as he crashes through trees and debris. Seowon lowers his fist, surprised at how strong the attack was. He thought it was a weak technique based on the description. This makes him wonder if martial arts strength changes depending on how much internal energy one has. He doesn't waste any time and finishes the guy off. Now with only 7 players left in the game, our boy is feeling pretty confident. With the amount of magic resistance he has right now, he won't take any damage from average magic attacks. However, he knows that now with Nam Sagwang gone, the real threats are finally starting to show themselves. Later, as he is running through the forest at an incredible speed, he smiles, realizing he can now imitate the elder's lightness technique. With a quiet laugh, he thanks the elder and promises to win. An hour later, Seowon hides silently in a tree covered by his invisibility cloak. Suddenly, someone calls out his name, telling him to stop hiding. The voice belongs to a muscular man in a cape who leaps out with a huge sword demanding a fair fight. He mocks the MC, calling him a coward. The guy even introduces himself and says that his name is Stanko. While he is still yapping, he suddenly notices an arrow flying at him and deflects it using his sword. He shouts in rage, demanding his enemy face him properly. Watching from above, the MC stays hidden, curious about who shot the arrow. Stanko then looks up and sees the archer standing on a tree branch. He knows that the only person capable of putting this much aura into an arrow is Zerkana. Surprised, the archer asks if he knows him. The guy tells him that the legend of the divine archer is well known amongst mercenaries like them. Since they are both trying to win, he suggests they team up to take down Seowon. Zerkana silently jumps down and walks toward him without a word. Stanko proudly introduces himself as a well-known mercenary and assures him that they'll make a great team. But inside, he mocks him, thinking that the archer must be dumb to fall for his act. Zerkana, however, seems to be thinking about something else. He counts the seconds on his fingers and wonders if he got the timing wrong. Suddenly, he hears Stanko telling him that an archer should never make the mistake of closing the distance himself. He swiftly tries to finish off the archer with his sword, but before he can even hit him, an arrow pierces through his skull. Zerkana makes a disgusted face and asks him if he really thought he would cooperate with an insect like him. He is more interested in finding out where Siowon is hiding. Just as he is saying this, our boy quietly walks behind him using his cloak and starts absorbing the life chi left behind by Stanko. Suddenly, the archer turns back and sees in his direction. This makes him panic, and he wonders if the guy has a skill that can see through invisibility. However, it all turns out to be a false alarm as Zerkana only turned back to see what items Stanko left behind. He changes his mind, thinking that his items are worth taking, and walks away. Meanwhile, our boy takes a sigh of relief and stares at the archer, choosing him as his next target. After draining all of Stanko's internal energy, Siowon glances around and notices the faint glow of a barrier marking the edge of the restricted zone. He quickly moves through the dense forest using the technique he learned from the old man. With only 6 survivors remaining and 87 days still left on the clock, he begins to wonder if the speed of the zone's collapse is tied to the number of players left in the game. As he rushes forward, his eyes widen when he suddenly comes across a large open area. The unexpected openness of the field immediately makes him uneasy, knowing that this kind of exposed terrain could draw attention from any nearby enemies. Just as he processes the risk, streaks of green energy cut through the air and head straight toward him. The sudden assault forces him into motion. He twists his body to dodge the glowing blasts that explode across the field. It's clear this isn't a random attack since the spell was cast with precision, aimed directly at his hidden location. Confused, he wonders how anyone could have tracked him so accurately. His cloak hides all sound and breath, making it nearly impossible for normal detection. Before he can draw any conclusions, a second wave of green energy rains down from the sky, larger and more intense than the first. Realizing he can't dodge them all, Siowon throws aside his cloak, takes a firm stance, and decides to bet everything on his internal energy. While facing the threat directly, he releases a powerful martial arts move, sending a straight punch crackling with blue energy into the incoming storm of magic. The punch explodes forward with devastating force, tearing through the barrage and shaking the entire field. As the dust settles and bits of debris fall around him, Siowon stares at his own hand in disbelief, barely able to believe the power he just unleashed. Without wasting time, he leaps into the air to get a better view, scanning the clearing for any sign of the enemy. His eyes finally lock onto someone hidden in the trees. Below, a mage watches the field in shock, muttering to himself in disbelief that the spell he poured all his mana into was neutralized so easily. Before the man can react, Siowon suddenly shouts as he notices someone behind him. However, the mage has no time to understand. A blade pierces his chest from behind, and blood spills out as he stares at the wound in disbelief. Behind him stands a silent assassin who calmly tells the mage that he should have saved some mana for detection magic or at least a protective barrier. The assassin explains with cold detachment that erasing his presence is easy for someone like him. With the elimination of the mage, only 5 players are now left in the game. Our boy lands quietly on the grass as the assassin turns to face him, recognizing him immediately as Jin Seo-woon, the one responsible for eliminating Nam Sagwang. The MC asks if the assassin knows him, to which the assassin responds that it would be impossible not to since he killed the number 1 public enemy in the lobby. The assassin mentions that the remaining players must be desperate to hunt him down and warns him not to resist since he has never failed to take down his target. With that, he rushes forward with dual blades, trying to finish it off quickly. Our boy tries to counter him with his special punch, but the assassin is just too quick, so he dodges and slashes his entire arm like he's Levi. The assassin admits that he is tougher than he expected. Siowon, on the other hand, realizes that without the protection of his internal energy, he would have been cut down immediately. The opponent is far stronger than any mage he's faced before, and it becomes clear that this is a completely different kind of challenge. The assassin grins and tells him that his death is only a matter of time since he has never failed to hunt someone in the dark. As Seowon steadies himself, the word dark rings in his mind, and a realization begins to form. But before he can act on it, the assassin raises both blades and vanishes into thin air, disappearing from sight. Caught off guard, the MC freezes in place, unable to sense the assassin's presence. Panic sets in as he realizes the assassin is already behind him, preparing to strike. Just as the killing blow is about to land, Seowon vanishes from the assassin's sight. Now it's the assassin's turn to panic. He looks around, unable to find him, when suddenly our boy appears behind him, cloaked and silent. He grabs the assassin's wrist firmly and explains that even though the assassin can hide physically, his energy still leaves a trail that he can follow. The assassin yells in frustration, calling him a coward for striking from behind. Seowon glares at him coldly, repeating his earlier threat about finishing him. Desperate, the assassin tries to bargain. He offers to team up with him and aim for first place together. But before he can finish the plea, Seowon cuts him down without hesitation, splattering blood across the clearing. The system announces the assassin's death, and the survivor count drops to 4. Our boy absorbs the life chi of both the players who just died and secures their healing scrolls. He decides to farm quickly and leave since other players might be arriving soon. While going through the assassin's items, he finds a shadow clone manual and realizes that he was carrying something that didn't suit him at all, since he had no internal energy. This manual allows the player to use shadow clones that fight for them. The mage who died earlier had a detection spell to look through any stealth skills, but his core isn't powerful enough to learn it, so it's useless for him. Seowon finally realizes how the mage was able to see him even though he was invisible. While he is still distracted, an arrow slices through his cheek and hits the ground. He looks back in shock to notice more arrows flying at him. Panic starts setting in, and he hasn't seen this type of immense magic power before. He knows that it's too late to run, so he decides to tank the attack using his internal energy. Flowing all the energy into his fist, he uses the exact same technique he used to deflect the mage's attack earlier. After successfully blocking the attack, he wonders if he's being teamed up by 2 people since he got attacked twice. Suddenly, another player appears out of nowhere and punches him, admitting that he is quite strong. The punch sends him sliding back, and he realizes that there are 3 players. The guy who just punched him is the Cruisen's king named Centurk, and behind him are 2 more players, including the Demon King's right arm, Garen, and Divine Archer, Zuru-Chana. Facing all of them is our boy Seowon, who is introduced as just a normal bloke. Despite being outnumbered, our boy stays calm. Centurk steps forward with a cold glare and makes it clear that Seowon's lucky streak is over. He can see the demon mage and the archer standing on the high ground. Their tight formation leaves no room for escape, and Seowon feels a bit frustrated. Just when he got so close to winning, he ran into teammates. Even so, he knows that teams like this often fall apart if pushed the right way. He studies them carefully, searching for cracks in their unity, but none of them seem familiar or easy to read. Then unexpectedly, Jiren approaches Centurk with a dramatic bow and calls him by a royal title, clearly trying to impress. The king, unimpressed and slightly irritated, questions his boldness. Garen laughs nervously and explains that in a place like this, status doesn't mean anything, and even suggests that teaming up with someone shady is fine if it leads to better rewards. Watching all this, Seowon realizes that they weren't planning on teaming. Suddenly, the MC begins to vanish using his cloak, and the king notices this, telling Garen to get rid of his stealth. The demon mage raises a glowing hand as golden light swells and bursts out like a flare. The light fills the whole area, wiping out every shadow. Seowon flinches at the brightness, quickly realizing that his stealth cloak is now useless in the light. The spell has completely exposed his position. As the MC processes this setback, the demon mage says that he has to thank Nam Sagwang for taking care of the archmage. He quickly switches gears, announcing that it's time for him to die too in the name of the Demon King, and unleashes a terrifying spell. The ground cracks as he casts the Chaos Blade spell, sending out a swirling mass of purple blades in every direction. Seowon instantly understands what's happening. He knows that mages like Jiren are weak up close, and if he can rush in before the spell fully goes off, he might be able to stop it. It's a dangerous move, but he charges forward without a second thought, diving straight into the chaos. The demon mage lashes out with the spell, frustrated and yelling as the blades whip through the air. They slice into Seowon, tearing through his cloak and spraying blood. Despite the pain, he channels his internal energy to protect himself as much as possible and keeps pushing forward. But the attack is too strong, and a system notification informs him that he can't use the cloak anymore due to it being damaged. Garen watches the explosions and thinks he's finished the job. Unfortunately for him, this is far from over, and our boy appears out of the blades with his face completely covered in blood. He tries attacking him with his piercing fist, but the demon mage seems to have seen through his trick. He smiles and uses another spell, this time calling forth massive undead hands from the ground. These hands reach out to grab and crush him. Siwon immediately senses that this spell is much stronger than the last, but he doesn't panic. He activates Shadow Clone, causing his body to blur and create phantom images that dance around the chaos. Garen stares, stunned that the MC can use illusion magic too, having thought he was just a physical fighter. The MC roars with determination, charging in for what he hopes is the final strike. Just as Garen tries to form a magical barrier, something unexpected happens. Senwork uses his piercing aura and stabs the demon mage from behind. Blood flies as the mage stiffens in shock, unable to believe the king would betray him. The guy coldly explains that victory is all that matters and admits he never intended to work with someone like him in the first place. The system confirms his death, and with this, the king thinks that there are only 2 players left. He looks up at the archer and mentions that he was quite the nuisance for their army. It's ironic that the 2 of them ended up working together. Zerkana smiles as he hears this and tells him that it's too early to say that. Before the king knows it, he gets punched in the face by the MC's piercing fist and slams into the wall ahead. While taking heavy breaths, Siwon stares at the archer and says that it's just the 2 of them left. He challenges him to just come at him, but Zerkana simply smiles and reminds him that he has a bigger problem to deal with right now. Suddenly, the king stands up more furious than ever. He is confident that he felt his sword pierce his body and also impressed that he could destroy his tough armor this easily. By this time, our boy has turned into something else. With his entire body covered in blood, he asked the king if he is going to fight him alone or if the 2 of them are planning to jump him together. The king stares at him with a cold expression and says that he will regret making him use his entire strength. Before our boy can even react, he feels his arm getting stabbed by his sword. Senric claims that no one can compete with him in terms of speed. He specifically targeted his ligaments so he won't be able to move his arms. Siwon doesn't want to lose after coming this far. He puts his trust in his inner energy and uses his fist to break the sword. While the king processes what just happened, he takes out the piece of sword stuck in his arm and throws it at his face like a dagger. Senwork burns with fury and asks him how he dared to injure his face. Meanwhile, our boy immediately rips out a healing scroll to recover his health. The king knows that he needs to step up his game if he wants to win. He decides to play his last card and takes out his aura blade. By this time, Siwon has healed his arm, so he uses his shadow clone technique and unleashes all of his inner energy. It seems like both of them are planning to end this fight with their final moves. The archer seems like he is bored and yells at them to get it over with quickly. With all his clones ready, he tells Senwork that they're going to fight for real. The guy just mocks him, brushing off his words and daring him to attack. But deep down, he knows his powerful aura blade has only 2 minutes left and he has to finish this fight fast. Siwon, on the other hand, can feel his energy almost running out too, so he's also desperate to end things quickly. Without wasting any more time, he charges forward with all of his clones. The king tries to counter him by swinging his sword, but there are just too many clones. Before he can react, the real Siwon appears behind him and strikes him hard with a palm attack. Senruk tries to counter immediately, swinging his sword while cursing him, only to realize once again that he's hit a clone. Frustrated that he can't tell which is real, he decides to just attack all of them at once. But before he can act, our boy appears again and lands a solid punch on his face, causing him to spit blood as his head twists from the impact. Even as he tries to spot the real body, he gets taunted, being told to stop wasting time searching. Siwon reveals that all his clones from this shadow clone technique can strike just like the real one, making it impossible to tell them apart. He then launches a fierce kick using another move, but Senwork dodges it and counters with his golden aura blade, slashing through 2 clones and erasing them completely. As they vanish, he mumbles about how weak they are. He looks around and realizes that only 5 clones have left, but he can't be too excited since he only has a minute before his aura blade runs out. From a cliff above, the archer Zerkana watches and mutters that he didn't expect Senwork to struggle this much. Suddenly, King yells up to him, asking for help and offering to give him all the rewards if they win. The archer simply warns him to look ahead as our boy is going in for another attack. Caught off guard, the guy barely reacts, but he manages to fire off a powerful counterattack with his crushing wave aura. The MC dodges and responds with another unstoppable fist strike, this time hitting him right in the chest and sending blood flying. Their next moves clash, and Siwon's follow-up attack crashes into the king's blade, but it's blocked by the guy's blade. With a sudden grin, Senwerk lunges forward and strikes what he believes is the real body, stabbing deep and watching blood splatter everywhere. But then the body flickers and fades, revealing that it was only a clone. The guy freezes in disbelief, realizing once again that he's been fooled. He mutters to himself that this is humiliating and screams that he doesn't care about winning anymore. Zerkana watches all of this from above, seemingly enjoying this fight. Meanwhile, Senwerk explodes with golden energy as he dares our boy to dodge. He rushes forward aiming to smash all the remaining clones. After the dust settles, several of them are gone. Breathing heavily, he narrows his eyes and notices that only 2 are left. One is the real body and the other is a clone. But before he can decide which one is real, Siwon suddenly charges in again, shouting that it's his turn now. He throws a powerful punch with his piercing fist, and a clone flanks him from the side, attacking at the same time. The combined strike lands cleanly and causes the king to spit up blood. Suddenly, he puts his sword through his neck, only to realize that it was a clone, since he felt no sensation in his hand. However, this means that only the real body remains. He points his sword towards the last standing Siwon and announces that he will finish it with one strike. The MC locks eyes with him and takes his stance, ready. The 2 of them charge forward at full speed, colliding midair with a burst of force. Seeing him keeping up, the king compliments him and says that he is pretty good at hand-to-hand combat. But his expression darkens again, and he dares him to block what's coming next. He activates his most powerful technique called the Aura Blade Lightning Form. A devastating blast of golden lightning erupts from him, striking everything in sight. The energy surges towards Siwon, tearing into him with brutal force. Gasping, injured, the MC tries to reason with him, saying that the only one benefiting from all of this is the archer. However, it's too late for that as the guy ignores him and drives his sword straight into his chest. At this point, Senwerk is pretty exhausted. The fight was too close for comfort, and he knows he would have lost if he had been a bit slower. Suddenly, he notices his blade destroyed in half and realizes that he didn't feel like hitting a real body. Before he can make sense of it, our boy appears from behind and erupts in a devastating counterattack. The real blow lands with overwhelming force, splitting Senwerk open. Standing over the fallen body, Siwon thinks to himself that if he hadn't used his clones to drain his stamina, the fight might have ended differently. At the same time, he hears the archer telling him that he didn't expect him to beat Senwerk. He also thanks him for dealing with him since he was quite the pain. He knocks an arrow stating that the king's pride made him go all in. And now Siwon, who gave his all to win, must also fall by his own hands. With incredible speed, he fires a glowing blue arrow straight at him. The arrow cuts through the air like lightning, and the MC barely has time to react. His eyes widen as the arrow races toward him with terrifying power. Our boy immediately absorbs the life chi from Senwerk. Even though it's not as powerful as Nam Sagwang, it's still enough for him to take on the archer. As the glowing blue arrow races toward him, he quickly activates his shadow clone technique, creating several after images of himself while dashing up the hill at high speed. From above, Zerkana narrows his eyes and calls his technique annoying. Confident he can handle it, he fires another arrow with sharp precision. The shot pierces Siwon's leg, confirming it hit the real body. In pain, the MC tumbles down the cliff and crashes hard on the ground. The archer jumps down with a smile and says that he has to make sure he can't escape this time. He draws his bow to shoot him in the arms and pin him to the ground. When the MC angrily demands to know how he figured out which one was real, Zerkana casually replies that he made a guess. Looking down at him with a confident smile, the archer admits he respects his determination, but our boy spits back in anger and tells him to give his respect to the dogs. Without saying another word, the archer shoots one final arrow directly into his head, killing him. And just like that, the game is officially over. Moments later, Siwon's body transforms into a chest, just like the others who died before him. The game announces that the Cloyd survival game has ended. The MC, now in what appears to be another dimension, watches his own body change into a chest and mutters to himself that someone else took the prize of his hard work. Though disappointed, he remembers he did the same to Nam Sagwang when he was defenseless. A system message congratulates him for placing in the top 2 and notifies him that he has qualified for the next game. Shocked, he wonders if there really is another game after all. The system also reveals that he has earned 140 reward coins, including his kill bonuses. Standing in a room surrounded by the items he collected, Sewon is told he can use his coins to buy anything. All the items have different prices, but his shadow clone technique costs him almost all his reward coins. At the same time, the system informs him that the top 5 players get a chance to spin a roulette wheel and win a random item. Since he ranks second, he will be getting 2 chances. This makes him a bit excited as he realizes that he can save a lot of coins by getting either the Cloak of Invisibility or the Shadow Clone Manual. He spins the roulette hoping for the best, but when it stops, he sees he's gotten Escrow's necklace, which is the cheapest item. Angry and frustrated, he grabs his head and questions why the worst option had to appear. Still, with 1 chance left, he steadies himself and prays desperately, calling on every god he knows. As the wheel spins again, he shouts for it to stop, and to his surprise, it lands on the shadow clone technique. In awe, Sewon clenches his fist and yells in victory, celebrating that he got the most expensive item and saved his coins. The system then notifies him that he will now receive the items he selected. The shadow clone book floats toward him, and he is told that once he finishes choosing, he will be moved. Looking at all the tempting options, he carefully makes his final picks, knowing he can't stay in this space forever. Once he's done, the system praises his choices and wishes him luck. Suddenly, he's surrounded by the same light and gets transported back to the alleyway. Confused, he looks around and wonders if he's really returned to his own world. He glances at his hand and sees the subspace ring he equipped in Cloyd Survival, confirming it wasn't just a dream. With this confirmation, he picks up his bag and starts walking down the street. He thinks about how his first game ended. Though the world around him looks unchanged, deep inside, he feels something important has begun. Smiling slightly, he realizes that TOEIC is no longer the real issue as he now has bigger things ahead. Looking down at the ring, he remembers that there is going to be another game. He thinks to himself that he needs to hurry and get ready for the second game as he doesn't want to repeat the same mistake he made this time and actually get first place. The scene shifts to the outside of his studio apartment, the place his parents found for him near school. Now back inside, Sewon no longer focuses on his English test, but fully on growing stronger from the things he brought back from the game. Dropping his bag onto the chair, he reminds himself that he doesn't want to play like a noob in the next game. As he begins meditating, he realizes that his energy core feels completely empty. This makes him wonder if he used all of his inner energy during that last fight. Since he can't simply kill people in real life to get their life chi, he has to recover it using cultivation techniques like the old man taught him. A flashback shows the elder explaining that internal energy is accumulated through cultivation. Once the core is formed, one can simply gather energy over time by focusing. This might not be as fast as the other method, but if he can make it a habit, he might master it before he knows it. Sewon asks him if he can become as strong as him if he just keeps training. This makes the old man laugh, and he reminds him not to shoot beyond his limits. However, soon after, he makes a serious expression and mentions that there is no saying what his limits truly are. Back in the present, he has been meditating for 4 hours now, but he still hasn't gathered much inner energy. This makes him frustrated, and he realizes that this is a lot more difficult than the game. If he continues at this pace, it might take him years to completely fill up his energy. Our boy decides to leave it for now and starts organizing the items he brought back from the game. He takes out the Shadow Clone Manual from the subspace and starts sweating as he wonders if he also needs to train it little by little, just like his inner energy. In order to try it, he opens the book and the system asks him if he wants to learn the technique. This is a bit surprising for him as the system from the game works in real life too. Fortunately for him, the technique doesn't take long to learn, but it's still not as powerful as in the game. To check out his other items, he reaches into the subspace and takes out Escrow's necklace. This is the cheapest item he got, but it's still made out of pure gold. He suddenly realizes that he can make a lot of money if he sells it to a local jeweler. Moreover, he can take back multiple of these necklaces in the next game and become rich. It might not have any value in the game, but it's expensive in real life. Afterwards, he takes out the troll potion, which guarantees a healthy life for a year for anyone who drinks it. My man has completely turned into a businessman by now, so he thinks about selling it to a rich terminal patient. With all these items, he realizes that he can actually make a lot of money from the game. Suddenly, He remembers that he hasn't really eaten any real food these past days except tough jerky strips. To make up for it, he goes to a nearby hotel called Grandma's Diner. He orders a meal that he would normally consider a luxury, but he doesn't care about those things anymore since all he needs right now is some tasty food. The food is so good that he starts crying. The grandma notices him and mentions that he came here yesterday too. He nervously tells her that the food is just too tasty. This also makes him realize that time stops when he is in the game. After eating, he makes his way back, questioning when the next game is going to start. He also remembers the ring of strength he brought back and wonders if it also works the same in real life. After putting on the ring, he tries jumping but accidentally launches himself too high. His body almost feels like it's overflowing with strength. Landing back down, he looks around to make sure no one saw him and starts walking back. When he finally reaches home, he decides to use his elixir of insight, which he bought for 50 coins. He stares at the potion, thinking to himself that it didn't allow him to move for 3 hours when he absorbed it in-game. It might be a bit troublesome if it works the same way in real life. However, he decides to risk it and drinks the entire thing, causing him to shoot out energy from his eyes like he is Superman. It's now been 3 hours, and someone has called the police on him since his house walls are almost melting from the heat. The old neighbor lady tells them that she tried knocking, but the door was just too hot to even touch. Even though there is literal steam coming out of the house, the police don't really take it seriously and mention that she should have called the fire department. Since there is no fire, they don't think there is any need to worry. It's only when one of them actually touches the door handle that they realize something fishy is going on inside. They knock on the door and ask him if he is okay. However, several seconds pass and no one answers. This makes them even more suspicious, but the door finally opens up and our boy comes out looking like a terminal patient. With sweat dripping from his face, he tells them that he had a fever, so he turned up the boiler a bit. The policeman asked him if he needs an ambulance, but he turns it down, saying that he will be fine. This is enough to make them leave, and they tell the old lady not to call the police for things like these. After they walk away, he drops to the ground with his back against the door, thinking to himself that he nearly died. The energy from the elixir was a bit too much, and if it wasn't for the white martial physique arts, he wouldn't have been able to contain it. Unlike in the game, there is a huge risk involved when doing things like this in real life. However, all this pain wasn't for nothing as he soon realizes how powerful he has become. Using just his palm strike causes all of his furniture to fly back. He also breaks his chair by accident and thinks to himself that he needs to sell some of the items to buy a new one. The next day, he goes to a nearby open gym, but it's a bit too crowded. He thinks about coming back after sunset when he suddenly notices some high school students coming his way. The kids are smoking, so an old guy from the park tells them that it's a no-smoking zone. Hearing this, one of them asks him who he is since not even his parents say anything about him smoking. The old man doubles down and says that his parents must have failed to raise him properly if they don't care about him smoking. This makes the student mad, and he prepares to punch the old guy. Fortunately, our boy comes to the rescue and kicks the guy before he can hit the old man. Bro casually sending people to a coma for trying to hit elders. However, it turns out that the real fight is just about to begin as Siwon hears another student calling him out. This guy looks like an actual criminal and completely towers over the MC in terms of his height. Our boy looks at him with an annoyed expression, realizing that he might have gone a bit overboard. Turns out that this is the older brother of the guy he just knocked out. Siwon tries to reason with him and says that his brother was the one who caused the problem by not respecting the old man. Moreover, he was smoking in a public area as a high school student, so it was the right move to educate him. He laughs, saying that he should be the one to teach him as his older brother. The guy seemingly has a single brain cell, so he ignores everything and goes for a surprise punch. Our boy is just too fast for him, so he dodges the punch and counterattacks with his piercing fist, sending him flying back. Suddenly, he realizes that he might have used a bit of excessive strength in this punch too. Despite being badly injured, Big Brother isn't ready to back down, so he takes out a pocket knife and threatens to kill him. Saewon simply stares at his face and realizes that both of these brothers are the same. As they continue fighting, he realizes that fighting normal people like him is too easy for him now. With a quick sweep kick, he throws the guy down and thinks to himself that he needs to control his strength as he might seriously hurt someone. Instead of hitting the guy directly this time, he uses 50% of his power and uses his palm first to create a shockwave in the air. This sends the brother flying back into the tree. Our boy panics, thinking to himself that he didn't want to do this. He tries playing it solo and says that the guy is just acting. After giving him a short lecture, he says goodbye and runs away from the scene. This was too far, and he knew that his life would have been over if he accidentally killed any of them. Suin knows that if he wants to use his powers in real life, he needs proper training to control them perfectly. It's been a month since he started his training. As he is meditating, he gets a call from his mom asking him about his well-being. He informs her that everything is okay and thinks to himself that he needs to keep his martial arts training a secret for now. When he asks her about his dad, his mom's tone gets serious, and she reveals that he got into a car accident. This shocks him to the core, and he frantically asks her how bad it is. The mom explains that a car hit him while he was making deliveries. They don't really have health insurance, so the surgery costs are going to be too much. She tells him that she feels bad for asking him, but she needs some of the money back from what she sent him. This breaks his heart, and he asks her about the total cost for the surgery. After she tells him the cost, he reaches into his subspace and takes out the gold necklace he brought back from the game, assuring her that he will take care of it. His parents spent all their lives bouncing from one rented home to another, working hard to provide for him. Suin starts crying as he realizes that he was just a freeloader child with no hope for his future. However, things have changed now. He finally makes his way to the jewelry shop and asks them about the price of the necklace. As she analyses the necklace, the girl mentions that it doesn't look local and has excellent craftsmanship. He lies and tells her that it's been in his family for generations. When he asks her for the price, she informs him that this is a rare item and asks if he is sure about selling it. With an emotional tone, he explains that his dad needs money for his surgery, so he has no choice. He ends up getting 11.5 million won for the gold necklace, but seeing the girl looking so excited makes him realize that he might have undersold it. However, it doesn't really matter much since he got the amount he needed. After he sends the money to his mom, she gets worried and asks him how he got so much money. He tells her that it's just savings from his part-time job in the army. She apologizes to him for making him go through all of this, but he assures her that she doesn't need to worry about him. After dealing with this problem, he decides to take a train back home. On his way, he hears two kids talking about a video of some guy using a flame spell. They might not understand what is happening, but Saiwon knows that this is a spell from Cloyd's survival. Seeing the video makes him realize that he is not the only person in Korea who has experienced that game. Suddenly, the video gets deleted, and the kids just knock it off as some crazy person. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a guy gets a phone call and assures the other person that he won't let it happen again. He even goes as far as to talk about cutting off internet access across the entire country. A bunch of men in black suits stand silently in front of him as he apologizes on the call. After he puts down the phone, he asks one of them what actually happened. With a shaking voice, the guy explains that the number of survivors has surged dramatically, and it's impossible to keep track of all of them. This makes the boss mad, and he throws an ashtray directly at the man, asking him why they aren't increasing the number of agents if the number of survivors is going up. He furiously orders him to bring the man who made the video. With blood dripping from his face, the guy assures him that he will get it done. The boss doesn't want the blood to get on his carpet, so he orders someone to heal him. The healer suddenly uses a spell and stops the blood. After taking out all of his anger on the men, the boss finally leaves. The scene changes to see a wound running alone in the night. He has been training for 2 months ever since the first game. This allowed him to gather a good amount of inner energy, and he also became more proficient in using it. However, his biggest issue is that he can only summon a single clone with his current inner energy, and that too for a short amount of time. Using his martial arts technique, he passes through the forest swiftly and trains in hand-to-hand combat using his own clone. With just a few punches, his body starts to feel tired, and he wonders if this is his limit. During his fight with Senwork, he had no problem controlling 8 shadow clones as he wanted. This makes him wonder if he used too much inner energy in his last battle. He stands up, telling himself that sulking about it won't help, and decides to go home. However, he does feel a bit hungry, so he prepares to open his subspace to find some food. Before he knows it, he gets teleported to the waiting area of Clyde's survival. Just like before, everyone is speaking in a different language. Siwon looks around to notice some people who look as confused as he was during his first time. While he is thinking, the system thanks all the players for joining and announces the beginning of the game's tutorial. This makes him a bit surprised since they skipped the tutorial last time. Ju wonders if it's because there are more beginners this time. Suddenly, his eyes caught a high schooler sitting on top of the statue with a calm expression. Our boy quickly looks away and thinks to himself that the guy is just trying to farm some aura by sitting there. He also knows that the guy has already played this game before, which makes him wonder if he is someone like Nam Sagwang. Meanwhile, the system announces that the total number of players for the game will be 200. The difficulty has been set to the lowest, and their only goal is to make it to the top 200. In other words, they can't lose this time no matter what they do. However, the rewards will only be distributed among the top 20 ranked players. Hearing all this makes our boy excited as he realizes that he can play like a psycho since there is no risk of failure. After the system finishes with the tutorial, it announces that this is a duo game and players will compete in teams of 2. With this, everyone is instructed to find their partner and make a team. Players without a team will have to play alone. Our boy stands there thinking about what everyone is looking for when making their teams. Since they are all meeting at the same time, they have no way of telling who can be a good partner. If they choose wrong, their teammate might become a deadweight. Suddenly, he remembers that high schooler and thinks about making a team with him. However, it seems like he is a bit too late as the guy is nowhere to be seen. After losing his potential partner, Seowon tries his best to find someone else to make a team, but everyone has already joined a team. It seems like he might have to play this solo, but it makes him even more excited as he thinks to himself that he will kill them all regardless. The game finally starts, and this time our boy doesn't land in a safe area, but somewhere he can find good items. He wants to be the first one to land and kill anyone who comes after. Since he is the first one on the ground, he manages to count the others who are still in the air. And from what he can see, 3 other teams have landed in the area. Without wasting any time, he makes his way to the houses. After his first game, he replayed it over and over in his head, thinking about all the strategies for his second game. So all he needed to do was follow the plan. Suddenly, he notices a player in front of him who appears to be a newbie. Without giving him any time to react, our boy quickly jumps into the air and hits him with his unstoppable fist spatial strike. The man asks him why he is attacking him, but he receives no answer and instead gets hit by another punch, which knocks him out. Since this is duo mode, he has to deal a final blow to the body or his teammate might revive him. Just as he squishes his head, his teammate shows up with a giant sword. The guy appears to be a knight and hits Siwon with his shield, pushing him back. Our boy admits that the man has some incredible strength. Meanwhile, his opponent takes an offensive stance and asks him if he is the one who killed his teammate. The MC realizes that the knight specializes in close combat. Since his unstoppable fist relies on his bare hands, he needs to find a way to deal with players who use weapons. Even though it's not easy, he has practiced it enough using his shadow clones. Just the thought of trying it out in the game makes him smile. He looks up to his opponent and says that it will be fun. The guy blindly charges forward with his sword, and Siwon pretends like he is going to throw a punch. Just before both of their attacks collide, he opens his fist and slightly tilts the direction of his weapon, causing it to change its trajectory. At the same time, he hits the shield, which creates an opening. Not wasting any time, he uses his spatial strike to create a hole in the opponent's armor. But he is not done just yet, as he quickly grabs his helmet and strikes him using his knee, breaking it all apart. In just a few seconds, he completely dismantled the guy who is now bleeding on the ground. He stomps on his face to finish him off, and just like that, he has the first 2 kills in the lobby. Afterwards, he absorbs their life chi and realizes that the sword guy was pretty strong. With one team gone, there are 4 players left in this area. Before our boy can even finish absorbing the life QI, an arrow pierces the wall in front of him, just missing his head. He immediately looks back to see where it came from, but there is no one behind him. Moments later, another arrow shoots out from the houses, this time slashing him in the face. As he wonders if there are going to be more arrows, the attacker launches a bunch of them at the same time. This is too much for him to dodge on open ground, so he quickly runs for cover. As the MC makes his way to the houses, he wonders if it's the archer from the previous game since the aim is too accurate. However, the person doesn't seem that strong, so it can't be Zurich Anna. Still thinking about their location, he gets out of the forest and onto a rooftop. If this were the previous game, he would have been hiding in the houses and safety farming items. But this time, his game plan is a bit different as he wants to absorb as much life chi as possible. While he is jumping on the rooftops, an arrow suddenly pierces his skull, putting a hole in him. Turns out this was a clone all along, and it just caused the archer to reveal his position. Seowon doesn't take long to get close to him and kicks him in the face. As the archer gets thrown back, he suddenly loses sight of him as the guy disappears into thin air. With a shocked expression, he realizes that the archer probably has a cloak of hiding. The realization comes a bit too late as the guy is already behind him at this point and shoots a bunch of arrows. Seowon manages to dodge the arrows with his insane reflexes, but it allows the archer to escape. He isn't gonna let his prey walk away this easily, so he jumps down and starts chasing after him. The archer is running for his life and almost feels exhausted, so it doesn't take long for the MC to catch up to him. After blocking his path, he tells him that he made the biggest mistake by attacking him in broad daylight, as he could have used his clock to camp and reach the top ranks. Just as he says this, another player joins the fight, and he appears to be the teammate of the archer he just cornered. The guy looks at Seowon and wonders where his teammate is. Meanwhile, the archer screams at him to kill him already and worry about that later. Our boy starts to realize that he might have made a mistake by not killing the archer earlier. It seems like he has to fight them 2-on-1. Even with the odds against him, he starts smiling as he realizes that he is the one who has the numerical advantage. Bro thinks he is Jinwoo. After surrounding him completely, both players launch a joint attack on him from two sides. He swiftly dodges the arrow, and it almost hits the archer's own teammate. Before they can attack again, he uses his shadow clone technique and starts running away into the alleyway. The archer isn't gonna let him get away this easily, so he sends 3 arrows flying at him, and each of them hits their mark. As the archer is busy glazing his own aim, our boy sneaks up on him from above and literally puts a hole in his chest using his bare fists. After knocking one of them down, he tells them that just because their eyes tell them that he is somewhere, it doesn't mean that it's true. The other guy thinks that he is an illusionist since he is using his shadow clones to fight. Seowon mentions that whatever the case, he still needs to defeat him if he wants to save his ally. Hearing this, the guy suddenly charges at him with his swords. Our boy takes on the challenge and goes for a head-on counterattack. In his opinion, the key to a counter is the point where the attack comes from. In this case, he needs to close in and aim straight for the shoulder. However, all of this is easier said than done as his opponent is just too quick for him to react. The guy manages to slash his arm and cut his chest at the same time using his other blade. All Seowon can do is watch as he barely avoids getting cut to pieces. The guy says that he must be using some kind of trick since his blade wasn't able to cut as deeply as he expected. However, it still doesn't matter as he will aim for his neck next time. The MC knows that the guy is too fast for him to counter, and this makes him a bit worried. He suddenly calms down as he remembers that this round has no penalty for dying early. This means that he can use a risky move. His plan is to follow the guy's energy and his killing intent instead of his movement. If he can't even do this, then he doesn't really deserve to be in first place. The Seowon in the second round was not the same as the one from the previous game. He had been training with inner energy for 2 months now and had a rare talent for using it. As he opens his eyes, he is shocked to see himself pinning the other guy to the ground. His opponent is also confused and asks him how he managed to block his ultimate attack so easily. In that moment, our boy felt like he had broken through a wall. Without wasting any more time, he kills the guy, putting his kill count to 4 and being the only player in the lobby to have any kills. Afterwards, he absorbs his inner energy and finds a healing scroll in his inventory. This is exactly what he needed to recover and start farming again. Unfortunately for him, the cloak of hiding is a bit damaged after the fight, which means that he can't use it without repairing it. With that item, he could have reached the top ranks easily. Despite the cloak having no use, he decides to keep it in his inventory in the hopes of repairing it later. In addition to the cloak, he also finds a lightning bow in the archer's loot box. As he picks up the bow to try it, he thinks to himself that he didn't really feel any lightning energy from the arrows shot by the archer. The bow also comes with a manual, which means that the guy wasn't originally an archer and just learned to use the bow with this book. Once he learns the book, he tries his shooting skills, and to his surprise, this bow seems to be much better than the one he had in the first round. With 4 players down, there is only 1 team left in the area, but our boy still thinks that it's better to farm a bit before hunting for them. He can't really find anything good in the houses nearby until his eyes fall on the clock tower at the center. Places like these are usually the best spots to farm, so he decides to give it a try. The opening door is closed, which gives him a bit more confidence since it means that no one has entered the tower. For his own safety, he decides to close the door behind him. All of his expectations are shattered when he finds nothing in the entire tower. Our boy starts fuming and says that the game can really mess you up sometimes. Just as he is blaming the system, he notices two players making their way into the nearby houses, probably searching for items. He thinks to himself that they might have some good items, so he should just avoid them. However, it seems like they are looking for trouble as he watches them entering the tower. Seeing that the door is closed, they think that nobody is inside, not knowing that our boy is at the top watching their every move. The team finds a healing scroll at the entrance and gets excited. Meanwhile, our boy quietly makes his way down the stairs, thinking that they are probably new players since they are getting excited about a healing scroll. My man literally skydives on top of them in order to strike first just because they are weaklings.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.